Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Marking Out on Com Radio. We are, of course, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, Ryan Simpson, and we had a crazy weekend here in the industry of professional wrestling. Of course, Super Showdown in Australia was this Saturday. It was a big, great, grand house show, Ryan Simpson. It was.
It was.
It was really, I didn't think it was that great, but I thought pageantry-wise it was really cool, some big matches, but overall, they definitely seem like it's definitely in the rearview mirror, and they're definitely already moving on to bigger and better things.
I think the first Saudi Arabia show really got them kind of in the groove for shows like this, kind of this big one-off festival of sorts. I mean, when the first Saudi Arabia show went off, we all kind of anticipated it to be like a mini WrestleMania, and I think that's kind of what these shows are going out to be.
Yeah.
Which, once again, I don't hate it. I mean, it just kind of sucks from a storyline standpoint. But we did get some storylines out of Super Showdown, and those continued on to Raw and SmackDown this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest storyline coming out of Super Showdown was the main event. Of course, it was billed as the last time ever. Don't know how accurate that's going to be. But it was billed as the last time ever. Undertaker versus Triple H. It was a decent match, probably the best Undertaker match that he's had in at least 3 years, I'd say, against Triple H here. But Triple H picks up the win. But at the end, the story is that Undertaker and Kane beat up Triple H and Shawn Michaels, sent him through a couple tables, and that is how we end Super Showdown. So now we transfer into Monday Night Raw, Ryan.
Yes.
And who do you know that opens the show but none other than a newly reformed Generation X, fresh with new merch and everything.
Of course, so that merch, baby.
Absolutely. What do you think about this, Ryan? Are you? I mean, obviously, the big announcement was now at Crowne Jewel, this upcoming show at Saudi Arabia. It's going to be a tag team match. One side it'll be Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement for this match for the first time in 8 years, taking on the Brothers of Destruction, Undertaker and Kane. I love this. If they weren't all like 60 years old. Listen, I think it's like kind of like what I said last week. I'm a huge fan of nostalgia, but I don't know. I guess I'm trying to say I have mixed feelings about it. I don't know. How do you feel, Ryan?
I'm a fan, but not a fan, just like you're saying.
Right.
I watched the match today between Trips and The Undertaker, and honestly, I was lost in the match. I mean, I'm a huge Undertaker fan, as I have said many times on the show. But it was a good match.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you would have had that same match with any other 4 superstars on the roster, I would have enjoyed it just as much. It wasn't just because of the parties involved. Going forward, though, I don't like Shawn coming out of retirement.
Right.
I understand why he's coming out of retirement, because they're willing to pay him mega millions to come out of retirement for a one-off match. Hopefully it's a one-off match. There's rumors swirling around that it's not going to be a one-off match.
Hey, if the money's right.
If the money's right, I mean, that's always been Shawn's thing. He even said that when he appeared on Raw the first time in a couple of years.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan and I'm not a fan. I like where this is going because we get to see possibly these 4 guys for the last time ever, and we're getting one last nostalgia trip together as the WWE Universe, but I don't like why it's happening. They're doing it, as I said last week, because of the business aspect and not because the wrestling's right or the storyline's right.
Right. And I agree with you that. I think the other thing that I'm kind of confused about is this is going to be the second Saudi Arabia show in 6 months. How often are they going to be coming back to Saudi Arabia? If the Saudis just keep printing out money, we're going to have another one. We're going to have one of these shows like 3 times a year, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too, because they are very, very close back to back. I'm interested to see if this is solely with Saudi Arabia or we're going to get another Australia show here soon.
Right.
Or are they just being partial to Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia is trying to be progressive with the government over there right now. But I just don't know if I like the time span. I would have liked it to be a year apart just because that's how pay-per-views work.
Right.
That's how the industry works. But I once again, I understand why they're doing it. It's the business aspect of it. They're getting more eyes on the product, hopefully exposing more people around Saudi Arabia into the product because obviously over there they're not a big fan of things like WWE.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think it's good for wrestling.
I agree, but I think long term though, do they kind of move out of this monthly pay-per-view model, and do they just have a bunch of international shows? Like, does this affect the U.S. like buy rate at all? Like, is now the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, is that going to be now international because they're willing to shell out a bunch of money for it and make it a bigger event than it traditionally is? How does this affect all these smaller pay-per-views that go throughout the year? I don't know.
That's a great question. I would hope that the model stays the same, but I know you and I are both big fans of Cultaholic, which is a YouTube channel that's over in the UK, and I know for years that we've been watching them. They have been begging for a show to go back over to England.
Mm-hmm.
And we have WWE UK that's supposed to be starting up. But if you're willing to have 2 shows in 2 different countries within this small time span, why can't you reach out to other places like in Europe that they go and do live tours for? Why can't you go and do a pay-per-view there? Because now you're just making yourself look dumb because you're willing to stretch your arms out for these huge promotions, but the fans that are over in Europe are just as diehard as we are.
Right.
But once again, it's the business of it. Is the money right? Who can we bring to our show? How many people are going to show up? What venue are we going to be at? Which is sad. But once again, it's the nature of the business.
Yep. And that's going to lead us into our first break of the evening. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about the Florida Super Showdown as well as what happened on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown this week. So you are listening to Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast, and we will be right back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, Ryan Simpson. And Super Showdown is officially in the books, and now we move full steam ahead towards Evolution and Crowne Jewel. And one of the biggest matches heading into Evolution, the first all-female pay-per-view, is the match for the Raw Women's Championship that was confirmed this week on Monday Night Raw. And it'll be Ronda Rousey defending the title against Nikki Bella of the Bella Twins. Of course, those two were part of the same team this past weekend at Super Showdown, in which they defeated the Riot Squad in 6-man action. Coming into this week, though, we officially got the much speculated heel turn of the Bella Twins, officially turning on Ronda Rousey to set this matchup. I think we all expected it. I think we even talked about
We did.
We talked about how it was confirmed before it was confirmed last week on the podcast here, but now it is like official.
Yes.
This is happening at Evolution here. My only thing is, I feel like of all the people that you're going to put up against Ronda Rousey, I don't know if Nikki Bella is the right choice. How do you feel about it?
Well, sadly, once again, going back to long-term storytelling, I just don't know where else they would go with this. I kind of see this as a one-off thing, honestly. I don't think this Ronda Bella angle is going to last too long. I think they'll get their two match out of it for Evolution and for Crowne Jewel, and then we'll see a new competitor for Ronda, because obviously she is not losing that belt anytime soon. I know we'll talk about this a little bit later after this title match, but the Raw Women's division is just very, very empty right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people coming back for Evolution. There's a lot of injuries still going on. There's a lot of uncertainty in the division. Very opposite of what SmackDown is. SmackDown is a very clear-cut picture of where everybody stands in the women's division, and yet Raw is just kind of this big, jumbled mess, which is a shame because Ronda's over here with the belt, and she needs somebody, and multiple people, I should say. She needs multiple people to help her carry this until Mania, because, as we've also discussed, it's going to be Charlotte versus Ronda this year at Mania.
Right.
But we still have to get there. There still has to be a road that leads us to there. And I don't think that will start getting planted until either Survivor Series or the Royal Rumble, because Rumble starts Mania season as we know it.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be a bad idea to start at the Survivor Series either.
Yeah, I think it's too early to kind of plant the seeds of that. Obviously, both women already have their respective programs going on right now. I think Rousey will probably handily beat Nikki Bella at Evolution. I don't think there's any reason it should go any other way than that. But as far as the women division goes, we also had some big storylines in Raw this week. The biggest match that was advertised for Evolution coming into Monday Night Raw this week was the return of Hall of Famer Trish Stratus to the ring to go one-on-one with Alexa Bliss. And they kind of threw us a curveball here, Ryan, on Monday Night Raw. Trish Stratus came back to Raw, cut a promo, and Alexa Bliss. Alexa came out. They're talking in the ring, and basically they start to plant the seeds, and then officially afterwards made it official that they're no longer doing this one-on-one match, and instead it'll be a tag team match. On one end, you'll have Alexa Bliss and Mickie James going up against Trish Stratus and Lita at Evolution. And I guess my question to you, Ryan, is how does this compare, this new tag team match, to the previous idea of a one-on-one match? Do you like it better? Would you rather see them go one-on-one? What do you think?
I think I would rather see the tag team match.
Okay.
Which I think is kind of a hot take because I know initially when the Trish-Alexa match was announced, everybody was swirling about it. That was old school, new school. Like, they have very, very similar characters to when Trish was a heel and how Alexa's heel character is.
Right.
But I think I'd rather see the tag team match just because we also get the addition of Lita. We get Trish and Lita back in the same ring.
Yep.
We have Trish and Mickie James with that history there, so there's some continuity. But once again, too, Alexa's hurt, which is what I was alluding to when we were talking about the Raw.
Oh, I didn't actually even know that.
Yeah, Alexa is hurt. She's still nursing some injuries. So they didn't want to put her in the ring with Trish. Not saying that Trish would intentionally hurt her, but Trish has been out of business for years and years and years. They don't want to risk more injuries with her or make anything else possibly go wrong with Trish. So we have the tag team match. I'm going to enjoy it. Once again, who doesn't love nostalgia?
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be awesome. But what are your feelings on it?
I mean, I think I would rather have seen Trish go one-on-one just because, but I understand the booking at the same time. I think going along with what you were saying about with Alexa being injured, you don't want to put her in there one-on-one with someone who hasn't been in the ring in a long time. But also when you make this a tag team match, you're able to cover up a lot of those like things that you can't do. I'd actually expect now Mickie James to have
a lot of the work.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she's going to probably be in the majority of the time. So still cool to see Trish and Lita back. I would have rather seen the 101 though. But I also, Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter reported that this was always the plan and that they actually pushed the Trish-Alexa thing, the 101 match, just because they needed a marquee match to sell tickets already, but that was never the intention. So they, more or less, they just duped the fans here to get people to buy into the show because they couldn't announce the Rousey-Bella thing yet because that had just been developed this week. What is your feelings on that? I personally feel a little grimy, but, like, I mean, I don't care, I guess. It's just weird that you would, like, advertise a match with no intention to put it on.
Hey, Vince McMahon has done worse to us.
That's true.
I mean, this whole Roman thing's still going on.
Yeah.
We're sitting here and taking it, but I don't necessarily blame them for doing that because, once again, too, we're getting another legend return, which will be cool because that's kind of how the theme of these big shows have come for Saudi Arabia and for Australia. We're trying to get as many big stars back as possible. But yeah, I'm excited for Evolution now. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a good show. There's also several NXT women who are going to get called up just for that show. Yep. Because it is going to be an all-women's show. If you do not know that what WWE Evolution is, it's going to be an all-women's pay-per-view on the WWE Network. So that'll be very, very interesting because it gets more exposure on women's wrestling as a whole. You never know what stories are going to come out of it. And you also have several NXT women coming up and getting the chance to show out on a big stage. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good show as well, too. I'm looking forward to the return of these legends as well as seeing some of these marquee matchups. But some other big stories coming out of Monday Night Raw this week. They're continuing to push not only Evolution but Crowne Jewel as well, as we mentioned before, with the match of DX versus Brothers of Destruction going on there. They're also pushing hard this the Cup.
The World Cup.
The World Cup.
Yes.
In case you didn't know, the winner will be the best of the world tonight.
Yeah, they're going to be really good. Really good at wrestling.
Big wrestling guys.
Big wrestling guys. But we had one superstar, John Cena, being that guy just kind of announced for the tournament. Yeah. And then we had GM Baron Corbin come out and put on this battle royal of essentially jobbers. Right. But we had a return of the Conquistador. Yeah. And it wasn't Edge or Christian. But, of course, we have the Conquistador and Baron as the last two. And all of a sudden, the Conquistador wins. And everyone's like, who is the Conquistador? And Baron's sitting on the outside looking all astonished. And then the Conquistador unveils his face. And it's none other than Kurt Angle.
There you go.
He's back.
Not as a GM anymore, though. He's I guess. I don't know.
Yes, I mean, the announcer said that he was on break from being the GM. I think he's going to move into kind of a part-timer role like Cena is at this point. But good for Kurt Angle being back. He actually looked really good.
Yeah,
he's 49 years old. He's been training. He's been trying to get back into shape to wrestle. But once again, 49-year-old guy coming back way after his prime to enjoy the product.
If you haven't picked up on it yet, for those of you listening at home, this was the most 2001 WWE show since 2001.
It was very, very throwback.
Kurt Angle, Trish Stratus, Lita, Undertaker, Kane, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. If you're a fan of like vintage Attitude Era, this is like the show for you.
Yeah, get ready because you're about to get 2-3 weeks of just old school WWE.
Yeah, and for some of you, that's a great thing. Some of you guys, you want the product to be more modernized. I get both perspectives, but hey, that's what we're working with right now.
But quickly on the World Cup, we had John Cena and Kurt Angle get in there, and then on SmackDown briefly, we'll talk about that. But we have 2 more superstars who are in. It's going to be an 8-man tournament, I believe.
Yes.
So half the field is already established.
Right.
But I'm very interested to see how this goes on. I just hope it isn't something like the Battle Royal where the winner just gets like a big green title belt or something like that.
Yeah, right, exactly. The thing like Braun won in Saudi Arabia and then was never seen again.
Absolutely. It's in the archives somewhere
in
Connecticut.
Right. It'll be 10 years from now, it'll be a feature on WWE.com. Like, remember that belt that was only on air for like 2 minutes and then never seen again?
Absolutely.
Can't wait for that. Some other things that happened on Monday Night Raw. We had Bobby Lashley versus Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens actually injured his knee here and was requiring surgery, so he will be out for a while, so his role will be severely missed. Who do you think benefits most, and I hate to say that, but who do you think benefits most from Kevin Owens being on the shelf?
With how Raw has been going the last couple weeks, I think if they break up Gable and Rude, I think Bobby Roode could be that guy.
I was thinking the exact same thing. If you're looking for a guy to take on that mid-card heel role, I think Bobby Roode. It's a shame that they just put him with Gable and they're starting to finally build momentum, and then this happens, but I'd rather see Bobby Roode in that role than anyone else on the Raw roster at this point.
I think I would too. I think that because him and Gable just kind of got their feet wet together, I think they have a great win next week on Raw, and Bobby turns on him.
Yeah.
And then you interview Gable backstage, and he's like, I don't know what happened. Like, I thought it was going really well. Like, hopefully this wasn't something that I did. And then you could have Bobby say, of course it was something you did. I'm Bobby Roode. You're Chad Gable.
Yeah.
And it's set right there. But I think Bobby could be that guy.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, they finally got a win on Raw this week against the Ascension. But after the match, they were dropped out pretty much anyway. Authors of Pain come in and just beat everybody up. So it's not like Bobby Roode and Gable have too much going for them right now. So why not just split them up right away? Poor Chad Gable, though. Guy can't catch a break. Some other things going on in Raw. They're continuing to promote this Mixed Match Challenge. Do you watch Mixed Match Challenge?
I have not watched it this year. I watched it briefly last year just because I wanted to see the format, see how it was set up, but I have not watched it this year. Are you into it at all?
No, because there's no stakes. It's not really great. What's the motivation to watch it? I don't get it.
I guess the only reason I would watch is just for like the wacky tag teams, like Ember Moon and Braun Strowman.
Right, yeah.
And like last year, Braun and Alexa were entertaining. This year we have Finn and Bayley together.
Yeah.
They're great friends off screen. But other than that, I am not a fan of Mixed Match Challenge.
Yeah, and then so they basically on Raw this week they kind of teased that they had Finn and Bayley versus Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox. So a barn burner of a match there.
It's a 5-star.
5 stars.
Might be 6.5, Dave Meltzer.
Yeah. I wonder what he gave this one. Very curious. But at the end of the day, Finn and Bayley get the win here on Raw in what is as meaningless of a win as you could possibly get in the WWE. What else did we have going on here on Monday Night Raw? We had and then of course the main event. It was the rematch from Super Showdown. It was the Shield versus Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, and Braun Strowman. And the big story coming out of this one is that they are continuing to plant the seeds of a Dean Ambrose heel turn.
Yes.
The Shield got the win in Super Showdown. The heels got the win on Monday Night Raw. And afterwards, Dean Ambrose walked out on Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns as the show came to a close here. And then in an exclusive backstage interview said something along the lines of like, well, maybe I just don't fit in anymore. So very much going forward with this Dean Ambrose heel turn seeds being planted. So what do you think? Is that the right move?
I don't know if it's the right move. I would like to see how it plays out if they do go with it. And I would also like to apologize for some of the harsh comments I said last week about this not going anywhere, because now we actually have a story in it.
Right.
It's not like we just have top guys being thrown this angle. Like, we're actually getting a storyline out of it. Like I said, I watched Showdown today, and the part of the match where Rollins and Roman are in the ring and the other three on the outside, and then Dean stands up on the last open side of the ring, and the crowd was just going bananas.
Yeah.
They were going nuts. And I was like, they might pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think management could have anticipated that reaction.
No.
But they got that reaction, and then, of course, Dean storms through the middle of the ring and drop kicks Braun off the apron. But then we go to Raw, like you say, and Dean walks away. So I don't know if I would like it, but if it happens, I wouldn't mind it.
Right.
I'm impartial right now about it.
Yeah, I think it all depends on the way that they play it out. Like, I'm not opposed to a Dean Ambrose heel turn, but if it's just done for no reason with no context or storyline, like right now there really is none other than like, there's no real reason he's turning heel other than
the only one I could see is just him coming back, Rollins being the IC guy, Roman being the Universal guy, and he's just kind of like,
I'm here, I'm
in the Shield. Woohoo!
Right.
Look at me, look at my friends. They're really good at wrestling. But I don't know. I wouldn't mind it. I mean, we've had little glimpses of it throughout his run, but he hasn't gone full on heel. And I would really like to see him go full on heel at some point in his career, because he could be a Cactus Jack or like an old Stone Cold, just like this maniac. Because we always hear the lunatic fringe, but I would like to see him go like on how Randy Orton's going on SmackDown.
Yeah,
right
like
now.
Sadistic. Like,
yeah,
I agree, and I think you got a glimpse of it honestly when he only time is when he first debuted. Because if you remember when the Shield in 2012 came in, Dean Ambrose was the leader of that trio. He was the mouthpiece. He was the guy that was always in the middle. You know,
true.
He was the centerpiece of that. And he was the heel at the time, and I thought that was his best work, honestly. So I think it's due time that we see him get back to form here.
I agree.
And then the last thing before we go into another break, Paul Heyman came back on Monday Night Raw, cut a promo for Crowne Jewel. His client, Brock Lesnar, will be returning to challenge Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship at Crowne Jewel. Always great to see Paul Heyman back on our television sets here. So some good stuff here. How do you feel about seeing Brock come back so shortly after his big loss at SummerSlam and his return technically in Hell in a Cell?
Might swerve you here, but I really like it.
Really? Why?
I really, really like it because it puts a whole lot of uncertainty in what's going to happen next.
Right.
Because when Brock was going to have that match with Roman, we all knew what was going to happen the day after.
Yeah.
We all knew what was going to happen the day after. He either was going to come out on Raw and say nothing, or he just was simply going to no-show. And he no-showed. But then we get to Crowne Jewel, or the announcement of Crowne Jewel,
right?
And then we hear Brock's coming back.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? Is he going to win the belt?
I don't know.
Is he going to, like, take out Braun, and Braun's just going to go away for a couple months?
I get what you're saying, though. Is like, who's going to eat the fall there? Because you think Roman's going to win. I mean, is Darth Vader really have Braun eat the fall at this thing?
See, I think it has to go a DQ and protect all of them, which is a shame.
But it's the main event of the show.
It is the main event of the show.
There's no way they're going to – unless it's like the Cup finals, like the end of the show.
It might be, but that's what I'm saying. It puts an uncertainty into what's going to happen going forward.
Right.
Which I like. And I'm not a Brock guy right now.
Yeah.
I really liked Brock when he came back. I enjoyed Suplex City, but he got stale for me this last year. But with that being said, him coming back only draws me back in because he is such an attraction that Vince loves to use. And at this point, we're getting to the age where Brock's not going to be around much longer.
Right.
So anytime that he is on our TVs, we have to appreciate it for what it is and kind of put our personal feelings aside. But I'm very, very excited to see where this triple threat goes.
Me too. And that's going to bring us into our next break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Friday Night SmackDown as well as preview everything else going on in the world of professional wrestling. You are listening to Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast, and we will be right back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Marking Out on Com Radio. We are, of course, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, Ryan Simpson. Super Showdown is in the books, and so is Monday Night Raw. But before we move on to Evolution and Crowne Jewel, we got to talk about everything that happened on Friday Night Friday Night No Longer.
Wow.
SmackDown Live. That's a throwback.
That is a throwback. Whew.
Oh, that was my childhood anyway. SmackDown Live this week on Tuesday. Nope, not Friday. A lot of stuff actually happened here. A lot of setting it up for Crowne Jewel and Evolution. And nothing bigger than surprisingly, the SmackDown Women's title match on SmackDown was kind of the big highlight of the show. Becky Lynch got herself intentionally disqualified at Super Showdown to retain the title. They have a rematch set here for SmackDown, and it does not go to a clean finish either.
It's actually a double count out, if I remember correctly.
Yes, double count out, and the big spot of the night is after the match is over, Charlotte spears Becky Lynch through the LED boards. Now, this is not a new spot by any means, but it's definitely new to see women doing it.
Yes.
Which is really cool to see them take these kind of spots.
I agree.
And so this happens, and that's like the big highlight of the show. And then the big announcement is made that at Evolution, Becky Lynch will once again defend the SmackDown Women's Championship against Charlotte. But this time, it'll be in a last woman standing match. It is the first time women will be competing in such a stipulation, and it happens at such a big show. Ryan, what are your thoughts on this big announcement?
I really like it. Last week we talked about how we didn't like Becky turning heel, and Becky was doing everything she could get this angle over. And I think from Super Showdown and SmackDown last night, they are doing a fabulous job, because now I think a lot more people are invested in it than initially were invested in it. They are doing a phenomenal job with what they were handed, just because they are both just extremely talented in the ring, and the chemistry between Becky and Charlotte is top-notch as well. And I think going forward for this last woman standing match, it's going to be epic. It might steal a show, honestly, just because of the ground that these women are going on at this point.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think because it has something that there's not a lot of on the rest of the card, and that's an actual story going into this. It's not just kind of like thrown into this. So between the caliber of the work rate of these two women and the story and the chemistry between them, I would argue that this should be the main event of the show. If it's not, actually, that's a good point. Is this the main event of the show, or do they put Rousey Bella on last?
It's going to be Rousey Bella, and I hate to say that, but it's going to be Rousey because she's Ronda Rousey. Though, which I think is what you were going to say, I think this should be the main event.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be a crime if this isn't the main event, given the titles on the line, the caliber of the women, the story, and the fact that it's a monumental moment in itself, being it's the first time it's a last woman standing match. And Nikki Bella doesn't deserve to be in the main event picture. I'm sorry, but she doesn't. I'm not tuning in to see Nikki Bella.
You tell him, Jason.
I don't get it.
Let's go.
Like I said, she doesn't deserve to be in the title picture.
She doesn't.
Also, some things happening on SmackDown. We had a qualifying match between Jeff Hardy, a returning Jeff Hardy, and Samoa Joe. This effectively ends the AJ-style Samoa Joe program here. The story was that at Super Showdown, AJ was working on Joe's leg with his finisher, the calf crusher. Joe continuing to sell that injury here on SmackDown, had it taped up, and it actually plays into the finish here of this qualifying match. Referee has to stop the match, give Jeff Hardy the win, because Joe cannot go any longer due to his leg injury here. So Jeff advances to Crowne Jewel in that World Cup tournament. And what do they do with Samoa Joe now?
That's a great question. I don't know where he's going to go next. And this is kind of what we were talking about with Shinsuke a couple weeks ago as well. After Shinsuke and AJ had their program, we were just kind of lost in the mix of where Shinsuke was going to go next. Now, obviously, he's won the U.S. title and he's doing everything he can with that. But Joe's just kind of floating around right now, too, because he's had several championship matches. Didn't mean to repeat myself there.
Good.
But he's had several championship matches, and we're just kind of sitting around waiting for somebody to beat AJ for the belt, and it's not going to be anytime soon, which sucks to say, but AJ's just the guy.
Right.
He is the guy on SmackDown. There's nobody going to beat him for that belt until possibly January at the Rumble.
Yeah, I agree.
And then that'll set up a WrestleMania match, hopefully. But as of this day, October 10th, until, say, January, nobody will beat AJ Styles.
Nope.
But back to the original question of where Joe goes, go away for like 2 months.
I feel like he just came back.
Me too, but like, go away, work this injury for like a month or two, come back in December, say you're the first guy entering the Rumble, get people excited about you again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the best move too because in my opinion, and as far as professional wrestling goes, it is such a grueling industry between the travel and the physical bumps that you take that I would rather not see somebody on my TV for a long time than have them on my TV and being something meaningless. I think it takes away from the star power of someone like a Samoa Joe, where if you don't have anything for him, don't put him on TV. I would rather him be away for a while and then come back and actually have something that you can give him than just be on TV just for the sake of being on TV. Which brings me into my next point. What is going on with Rusev and this night in Milwaukee? And God, this might be some of the worst television writing I've ever seen. Like, this is just awful.
It is bad. I know we discussed it. I don't know whether it was on the air or not, but when the angle initially aired about how bad it was, just because it's 2018 and we've seen something like this over and over again throughout different promotions. But here we are still recycling an old angle. But I don't know what's going to happen. I really hope it's just like a match at Crowne Jewel and we just like get this out of the way and we move forward from it. But once again, Aiden English isn't going to go anywhere after this. This is going to be his last big story probably.
Yeah, after this story, I mean, I think the best move for Aiden English is put him on 205 Live.
That would be cool. I wouldn't mind that at all.
I mean, I don't know if that necessarily helps him, but it certainly doesn't hurt him more than this. Because realistically, after this program ends, Aiden English is either going to get cut or moved somewhere else. Because what else are you going to do with him at this point?
Completely agree. And then once again, same kind of boat that Samoa Joe's in. Where does Rusev go after this?
Yeah, I think why are we continuing to push Lana as a singles wrestler? Have her continue just to manage Rusev. Like, go back to that dominant heel character. Why aren't we doing Rusev Joe?
I was just about to say, why don't we do Rusev Joe and Shinsuke for the U.S. belt and have them just, like, patty cake the belt around?
Speaking of Shinsuke Nakamura, the current U.S. champion, by the way, wasn't on the show again. What is going on? Why are you putting the belt on this guy if he's not even going to be on your television program?
I don't know, but once again, SmackDown is very much peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
Raw is just kind of mediocre throughout, but you have Charlotte and Becky doing their thing, and it's great. You had AJ and Joe before their blow-off match. It was all right. It was watchable. And then we just have, like, Shinsuke not being on TV. Then we have this one night in Milwaukee stuff with Rusev and Aiden English. And it's just like, what is going on back there?
I don't know. And it's really painful to watch some of this stuff. And they all just deserve so much better. But going forward, we have Miz and Daniel Bryan. Miz TV, of course. Daniel Bryan got the win in Super Show-Down in what was about a 3.5-minute match. Wins with a quick roll-up. I don't know why. It must have been a management decision as to why the match was so short, cut for time or whatever. But then, nonetheless, Daniel Bryan will be going one-on-one with AJ Styles for the WWE Championship at Crowne Jewel in Saudi Arabia, continuing to build for that. They had a Miz TV segment with both Daniel Bryan and AJ. This led to a match between AJ Styles and Shelton Benjamin, of all people. I guess because Shelton Benjamin beat Daniel Bryan last week, so naturally he's got to face the other guy in this program. AJ picks up a win here over Benjamin with a phenomenal forearm, but again, not really too much else. Like, the biggest crime I think right now is this Miz Daniel Bryan thing is really just, it had so much potential, and they are just doing everything they can to kind of kill its momentum, and I don't get it.
I kind of agree. I mean, at least we're still getting some interaction between them. Like, we are still getting them on TV at the same time or interacting somehow, whether it's social media or whatever. But, yeah, once again, this is just kind of one of those peak and valley things. Like, it was really good. We had a lot of Miz Daniel Bryan stuff going on, had some matches, and then just, like, slowly trickled down to having the wives join into the match. And then, like, we trickle down some more, and we have a 3-minute match that could have been phenomenal, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been great at Super Showdown, and it was 3.5 minutes long. And now we're just, like, facing Shelton Benjamin on SmackDown.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Hopefully this match between Daniel Bryan and AJ is worth it. Maybe Miz comes out and takes the title away from Daniel Bryan. Maybe he, helps Daniel Bryan win, and then he's like, I want you for the belt. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah,
but then AJ's still in the mix, and you don't know where we're going to go forward.
Somewhere down the line, this is going to end in a triple threat match.
Yes.
I think probably Survivor Series.
I wouldn't mind that.
That's probably my guess, is that that's what your main event of Survivor Series is. But I have no idea. It depends what The Miz is doing at Crown Jewel. Right now, he doesn't have a match, so I imagine if it stays that way, he's going to play into the finish of the WWE Championship match. But who knows? But the last thing we got to talk about here on SmackDown was the last of the qualifying matches. It was the return of the Big Show.
Well,
Big Show came back. Looks good, by the way. I thought
he's looking real good for how old he is too.
He in a qualifying match against Randy Orton here. Randy Orton picks up the big win here, so advances to Crown Jewel in that 8-man World Cup tournament. By the way, the tournament will determine the best in the world. In case you didn't know.
I would also just briefly like to discuss the current 4 that are in this tournament. We have John Cena, who is 40 years old. We have Kurt Angle, who is 49.
Yep.
We have Orton, who's probably 39 or 40, right?
Yeah.
Then we have Jeff Hardy, who's 41. Can we get somebody young in here to, like, push them and maybe get them to have a good match?
I think they should just change the tagline of the tournament. It's no longer the best in the world. It's the best of 2003.
It should just be the oldest in the world.
The oldest in the world.
The oldest in the world. We're just going to get Taker in there.
Yep.
We'll get, like, Kane. We'll bring back, like, Giant Gonzalez or somebody like that.
We're going to raise Giant Gonzalez from the dead.
Yeah, we're going to – hey, Undertaker can do it. He got wizard powers.
There you go. Something like that. But, yeah, those are the 4 that are in this tournament right now. And it's I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. I guess if you're a fan of Randy Orton, that's good. At least he's got something he can actually do on this show. Because I don't think he was on Super Showdown at all.
He was not. No, he's just been kind of showing up on SmackDown. He had that thing with Ty Dillinger we talked about last week. But he hasn't had anything, like, major come about yet.
Yeah.
Going forward.
All right, that's going to do it for SmackDown. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to recap the confirmed matches for both Crown Jewel and Evolution, as well as preview NXT 205 Live and the Mae Young Classic, as well as most of the top stories within the independent circuit here in the world of professional wrestling. So you're listening to Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast, and we will be right back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast. I'm Jason Marcus. Alongside me is Ryan Simpson. And now we're going to shift gears and talk about some of the smaller promotions in the world of professional wrestling. But before we do that, we got to talk about NXT, Mae Young Classic, 205 Live. So one of the big shocking moments of Super Showdown this past weekend was actually the title change of the Cruiserweight title. Buddy Murphy won the title in his home country of Australia, defeating Cedric Alexander, who had held the belt for about 6 months, I believe. So a lengthy title reign for Alexander comes to an end. Buddy Murphy, the new face of 205 Live. There will be a new episode tonight. Actually, I believe it is ending now, so you'll be able to catch it on the WWE Network. Cedric Alexander is going one-on-one with Tony Nese, and Buddy Murphy will have his first promo as champion as well. So if you are a big Cedric Alexander fan, maybe check out 205 Live this week and see him go one-on-one against the premier athlete. Otherwise, words in the world of the WWE, we also have the Mae Young Classic as well. This has been a surprisingly decent tournament, no offense, but it's actually been exceeded my expectations. The matches have been pretty good. Last week we had Mercedes Martinez in the main event. She is one of the most respected women in the lucha scene through her career. She doesn't get the win here, but she had a great showing as well. We have Maya Yim versus Caitlyn tonight on the Mae Young Classic as well. Also, some of the biggest stars from this Mae Young Classic. I'm a big fan of Casey Catanzaro. Simpson, I don't know if you've watched any of her matches or are familiar with who she is, but she made headlines before coming to the WWE as the first woman to conquer the Warped Wall on American Ninja Warrior.
Oh, okay.
And at 5 foot tall, she is a career gymnast, and she shows it in the ring with some pretty fun acrobatic moves. She's a hardcore babyface. Fans love her. She's getting a really good reaction. Management's behind her. She reminds me a lot of Alexa Bliss. So she is definitely someone to watch. She's no longer in the Mae Young Classic. She lost to Rhea Ripley last week. But she is definitely a future star and going to give the company a lot of money going forward. But check out the Mae Young Classic on the WWE Network. A lot of good content there, a lot of future stars as well. Also tonight we have NXT. Some big matches tonight going on. We have Kona Reeves versus Keith Lee. Keith Lee, of course, one of the most famous independent wrestlers over the last couple of years. He signed to WWE a couple months ago. Is finally starting to get into a program here. He has a match against Kona Reeves tonight, which should be pretty good. And then, of course, the main event tonight is a triple threat match for the NXT North American Championship. It is the champion Ricochet defending against the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne and United Kingdom champion, and, of course, the leader of the Undisputed Era, Adam Cole. So 3 of the top superstars in all of NXT tonight. Should be a very good match. Excited to see how that goes. Simpson, are you going to be tuning into this triple threat match?
I will, and I hate to say this, but I'm tuning in just for the triple threat match.
I agree, yeah.
Because, I mean, I like Keith Lee. I like his character. I watched a couple of his matches on NXT. Really enjoy him. I just want to kind of wait until he really gets a good storyline for me to get invested in because I don't want to ruin my opinion of him early. But I'm very, very excited for this triple threat match. It's 3 top guys in NXT, like you said. We have the North American title kind of storyline between Cole and Ricochet. We had Ricochet versus Pete Dunne last week, which you said might be match of the year.
Yep.
So it's gonna be an incredible match.
Yeah, I'm very much excited to go home and watch that match as well. Some really good stuff. Some other NXT news coming out this week. It is said that according to ProWrestling.com as well as Cage Side Seat that a deal is imminent for NXT UK to be the first weekly WWE show broadcasted exclusively in the UK. So some big TV deals coming out of there. Some definitely, there's, like you said earlier in the broadcast, there's a lot of hardcore fans in England. So to get them a weekly WWE exclusive program just on their television sets is a big deal. Also gets more eyes on this newly christened NXT UK brand. So some good stuff coming out of NXT in their future as well. And then the last topic we're going to talk about today before we head home is a lot of stuff going on in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. The biggest headline right now is the recent triple threat match between the IWGP Heavyweight Champion Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, and the newly crowned IWGP United States Champion, as well as the current NWA Champion, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. This 3 of the biggest stars in New Japan now going at it, and I'm also excited to watch this match as well. I would like to just say that I think Cody Rhodes leaving the WWE is one of the best moves of any professional wrestler career-wise. Since leaving, he has really not only just elevated himself, but elevated every single promotion around him that he's worked for, which is a rarity these days. You see guys like Neville, who left the WWE, and now he's working for Dragon Gate, and that's great, but I can honestly say that he's still the only person in Dragon Gate that I will know and continue to watch for. Cody Rhodes leaving the WWE made me tune into every program that he was on, and I can now tell you guys that he's working with from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and had Cody Rhodes not left the WWE, I don't know if I'd be sitting here saying that sentence. So all the credit in the world to Cody Rhodes, a double champion at the moment, really bringing back this whole old school wrestling that his father kind of was such a pioneer of, obviously bringing prestige back to the NWA Championship as well. But some of these, just the way he's booking matches and the creative finishes, I love watching Cody Rhodes. I love seeing what he's doing, and I'm just excited to see where it goes from here as well.
No, I completely agree. Cody leaving has been phenomenal for him. He's been doing just great work everywhere he's gone. I loved his shtick in Ring of Honor where he won the belt, and instead of wearing the belt, he had a ring, and he told people to kiss the ring, which was, just one of those disrespectful things that you can do as a human being, and he was doing it as a wrestling champion, so he got all the heat in the world. And then we have him put on All In with the Young Bucks, which went on great. There's rumors that there's going to be a second show.
Yeah.
And then we have him win the NWA title at All In, and that gets more eyes on it. I know I was talking to my dad and said, oh, hey, Cody Rhodes just won the heavyweight championship. And he said, I didn't even know that belt was still, around.
Yeah.
But but he's getting more eyes back on that product and that belt. And then he wins the United States Championship over there in New Japan. And then he has this huge triple threat. He is just so talented, and I'm so glad he's getting utilized the way he should have been utilized all along.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't speak highly enough of Cody Rhodes, but also you got Kenny Omega in there, who's arguably the best wrestler in the world as far as work rate goes. He's still currently in the midst of this program that's building toward Wrestle Kingdom 13. Most likely, it will be Kenny Omega versus the winner of the G1 Climax, Tanahashi, for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. So keep your eyes on there if you're to see more of Kenny Omega's great stuff as well. And then
the last big thing that I think all wrestling fans can appreciate is we had a match between Evil and Zack Sabre Jr.
Yep.
But the match did not go on because there was a druid who just happened to be Chris Jericho.
Happened to be
Chris Jericho, and he goes out and he starts attacking people left and right, and he does what Chris Jericho does. And once again, going back to how when Cody left WWE, Jericho taking a break.
Yep.
Because he's obviously going to come back. But taking a break from WWE has done wonders for his career as well, because he can do so many more things over in New Japan that he can't do in WWE. And I know that there was a rumor at 1.2 that he possibly might join Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
Which would be crazy if that ever does happen. I don't think it will. I think
so.
He likes Japan too much. But he's also putting on this rock and roll boat show thing where he's getting all these New Japan guys on it. But Jericho's back in New Japan. He's going to start doing crazy stuff again. So watch out on social media for all the wacky shenanigans that Chris Jericho does. But New Japan's great. It's such a change of pace from WWE.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoy it. I'm sure you do too.
I love it because I'm a fan of the work rate and the wrestling, and that's what the New Japan's bread and butter is. WWE is so much more character and storyline driven, whereas New Japan, Ring of Honor, and all these other independent promotions are these guys just go in there and there's definitely in-ring psychology, but it's not as gimmicky. It's you go in there and you work for 30 minutes nonstop and you put on classic matches, and that's what I really love. So I just leave this or end our show with this thought that Chris Jericho, a couple of years ago, came in, attacked Kenny Omega, and then he attacked Tetsuya Naito. Now he attacked Kenny Omega. Now he's attacking Evil again. When are these people going to realize that there's a masked man in New Japan is not supposed to be there? It's Chris Jericho.
It's very true. I mean, I also just love the storylines where, like, Sting's just, like, chilling in the crowd.
Like, oh, God.
And then it's like he's wearing a Sting mask, and he attacks somebody, and he takes it off, and it's Sting.
Yeah,
it's just like, wait, what? But I don't know. New Japan's great. Like you said, the work rate over there is impeccable. That's why Dave Meltzer continues to give them all of the ratings and not WWE, because that's just not what their focus is.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what some people kind of don't understand being WWE fans. If you're slightly exposed to New Japan, you don't understand that when you see a great New Japan match, that's how every single match is put on.
Right,
That
exactly.
is the caliber and the quality of every single match put on.
Yeah.
That's just not how WWE is. It's never really been how WWE is.
Yeah,
If
they're starting to transfer more into that, specifically on NXT. I feel like but all at the same time, NXT's bread and butter has been that they're all the independent guys that they're pulling from these promotions and letting them just do their thing.
I think the closest comparison to a major company that is like New Japan is Cruiserweight WCW.
Yes.
Like when you had Eddie in there, you had Dean Malenko in there, you had Rey Mysterio in there, you had Chris Benoit in there. Those guys could put on insane matches, even like Psychosis when he was in there thrown around. Guerrero when he was thrown around in there. Like, those guys were so technically sound. They could put on absolute masterpieces. But once again, that's not how WCW wanted to run. They were doing all kinds of other shenanigans that we could talk about for 20 hours if we really wanted to. But New Japan's great. If you haven't tuned into their product, now would be a good time because they have a couple really, really good storylines building, and they're going to have some great matches here in the future.
Absolutely. And that's going to do it for this episode of Marking Out. Tune in to us next week here, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Also, next Tuesday, it is the 1,000th episode of SmackDown. Confirmed return from Rey Mysterio.
Booyaka, booyaka!
The Undertaker, and I'm sure many more. The return of Evolution as well, the stable, not the pay-per-view. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we will be back next Wednesday at 7. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.